Everyone, I hope you're good. I hope you're well. Sorry, I haven't delivered the videos as promised. At this stage, I'm almost like INEC, and they promised that we're not going to shift the elections, and then here elections are shifted last minute. So I've been promising, but you will get them. I've just kind of been busy with work. So we get these videos in December. I'm trying to do some version of Vlogmas, as we term in YouTube, where you have this video every December for a couple of days. So I try to do that. Anyways, this video is about Cardi's speech. And when I say Cardi, I'm not referring to Cardi B, rapper, actor, musician, and just generally a great vibe. I'm referring to the other Cardi, Yemi Cardoso, governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria. Um, so he gave a speech on Friday, yes, Friday evening at the CIBN dinner. CIBN is the Chartered Institute of Bankers of Nigeria. So they have an annual dinner they do every year. It's essentially get down and relax and have fun, chit chat kind of thing. But more importantly, is you have the CBN governor lay out his outlook for the coming year and just generally give his thoughts on whatever trending issues he has in mind. Now that Friday speech was kind of anticipated because the current governor, Cardi, I would say is less loquacious compared to previous occupants of that seat. Um, he's also coming in at a time after you've had the clear out, you've had Mefile, the previous governor, what removed, you've had all the decops removed on the step down. We're not clear on that. So anyway, you have a new sheriff in town, and so just most people want to know what are his plans for the CBN, what are his goals, and just generally his views and thoughts, right? And so his exact words are in italics, while my thoughts are in regular font. First thing, and I think this is the most popular headline you see everywhere, is banks are going to have to raise more capital. And why? Why do banks need to raise more capital? And he says that look, if you have a 1 trillion economy in the future, that's the aim, then banks you need more capital. Going to need bigger banks to serve that kind of economy. And so banks are going to be directed to raise more capital. How much will they raise? Nobody knows. But I'd wager I guess and say somewhere between 250 to 500 billion would do. Who knows? It could be a bit more. I don't think we'd say 1 trillion cap base. So maybe we might see somewhere between that range, really, 250 to 500 billion. Um, I think the big banks, the big five banks, the Fugas banks, the FBN Holdings, GBA, GT, Access, and it's a good. But you might see tier two or tier three banks, the smaller banks, having to come to the market to raise capital and all that. So how does that affect you as an investor, right? What does that mean for you? It means dilution. Banks issuing more shares to sell means that you're going to have more shares, owned or more shares issued by the bank, and that means you would have smaller dividends and smaller earnings per share, right? And in theory, you have bigger shares in issue, probably you might see slight dip in share price in theory, right? You're going to have mergers and what I term in quotes mergers. Now, the first mergers, right, is two banks coming together to merge. The second mergers in quotes is acquisitions, but diplomatically termed as mergers. I remember we had one a few years ago. I think this was in what? Was it 2019 or so? I saw you, anyway, popular banks, right? Two popular banks, and so they merge. The reality is one was acquired, even though they all termed it a merger. So you're probably going to have mergers like that. Your dividends may get sliced. Dividends are a big deal in the Nigerian market because you don't tend to have a steady increase in the growth of share price over time. So yeah, 2023 has been a good year. I think 2022 was a good year, but if you look at the 10 or 20-year charts in the Nigerian market, a lot of the stocks are not where they were 10, 20 years ago, or are only just recovering to where they were. So dividends are the second source of benefits you get from investing in shares. And so your dividends will get sliced, should get sliced. We do have this odd thing that we do in the Nigerian markets where a firm is raising capital, equity capital, or selling shares, and at the same time they are paying out dividends or they're increasing the dividend. But you might see dividends getting sliced. On a personal level, if you have mergers and acquisitions, you may see job optimizations or job rationalizations, just a fancy name, but you're going to see people lose jobs. So I'd say if you are in banking, especially non-core banking, and by non-core banking, I'd say maybe those who are tellers and those who are marketers and all that. I mean, we tend to use the word bankers to cover literally everybody who works in a bank, but you have core banking and non-core banking. So if you're in non-core banking, you might see a few people losing jobs. So have a plan B, have an emergency fund, and just generally take your job seriously. This isn't the time to faff around if you've been doing so. So you might see that happen. Fintech licenses will get tweaked, and everybody also inferred that he was referring to fintech here because obviously when you're talking about technology and finance and you put the two words together, it's fintech, right? So he says we've observed that some licensees are operating outside their approved activities, reaching boundaries set for them. And if this happens intentionally or unintentionally, they will be sanctioned. So if you're a fintech and you're operating outside your boundaries, you might get sanctioned. What I infer, and a lot of people also infer, is that you may have some new licenses created, or just you're just going to have licenses too, because you have an abundance of licenses in that space. You also kind of have loopholes in that space as well, and so I think you're going to have things kind of straightened out there. But if you're fintech, what does that mean? It means that you might have to cough out money for a new license in you might have to cough out money to be licensed. I mean, so it's early days here. I guess it'll be a bit more clarity as the months go by, but just to know that interest rates would move higher. Somewhere in the speech, he says, look, we're going to tighten things a bit. And when you use the word tighten as a central bank, it means that they're going to raise interest rates. And so for the next 2 quarters or 6 months, you're going to have higher interest rates. Why are you going to have high interest rates? Because it's one of the ways of dealing with inflation. More so, I mean, in theory or in reality, right, a lot of the inflation you're dealing with in Nigeria is due to inefficiencies. You have high cost of transportation, bad roads, insecurity, and all those things drive up prices. But you also have on the flip side, you also have a lot of money pumped into the system. We had a lot of money pumped into the system by ironically the central bank. So one of the ways of dealing with this is to increase your interest rates. So you have higher interest rates, you have less spending, people tend to invest more, and that draws money out of the system. So in the next 6 months, I guess you see higher interest rates. By higher interest rates, I'm guessing he would mean higher interest rates in broader markets, higher interest rates on T-bills and instruments like that issued by the CBN, right? What about the FX market? FX has been on everybody's mind. I think 2023, the twin forces that hit people hard are the devaluation we've seen and the removal of petrol subsidies. So for the FX market, you're going to have new FX guidelines and legislations to be developed in consultation with the banks and other market operators before implementing them. So we'll have a bit more clarity in that space, and hopefully that has investors comfortable enough with bringing FX into the market. A decent chunk of the FX that we badly need as a country has to come into the market. That's not happening, right? So a lot of people are watching Nigeria and saying, hey, if I bring in my dollars, can I get it out in time? I don't try to like get it out. So that's something to note, and I guess that's good news as well. You're also going to have inflation targeting, and that simply means we have an inflation rate, a number we're looking at. Now, you've had that in the past, but I'd say, and I think it was in my previous iteration of this slide, the CBN simply stopped paying attention to that, and I think people stopped paying attention to that because I think the rates then were targeting were what, 9% to 10%, but come on, you had inflation at what, something percent, and you do your meetings and you say, hey, this is what you want. So I hope we will, or the CBN will begin to take that more seriously, right? Um, and maybe I'm curious as to what the numbers would be, 10, maybe 15, maybe 18%. So I'm curious as to what rates they'll be targeting. And then luckily, the CBN says, hey, we're going to, or the governor says, we're going to be a bit more forthright to communicating these goals with the public. Now, this is the part I find the most interesting. You're going to have more data sets. You're going to see tracking of indicators like access to food, shelter, healthcare, education, financial services. And so, why do you have this? So, why is the CBN going to do this? Um, Doing so would give more visibility to the human condition, and just enable it draw better policies rather. I find this interesting because I don't think that this really. I think this is. I think this is a bit out of what, or I don't think this is an immediate thing for the CBN to do. I think there are lots of other bodies that can do this. The MBS, the Bureau of Statistics, does this. Or will be better in a better position to do this. You have lots of multilateral bodies that can do this as well. You have the World Bank, you have the UN. I mean, there's just so many UNDP. There's just so many bodies that can track this data and have this data. So I don't see why the CBN wants to do it, but it's all good anyway. More data is always good. It's a choice as well, and it will be interesting to see what they want to infer from this. So, I mean, I don't think this is a pressing need, but this is what they want to do. Um, Bye bye to the various intervention funds. In the last couple of years, the previous management, I put the previous management, these are my words in brackets, right? Obviously, it's the previous management, um, has lent out over 10 trillion naira to different sectors of the economy as intervention funds, through banks and all that, in some cases directly. So I think that, and obviously I agree with the governor that this clearly distracted the CBN from its core mandates and took it to areas where it clearly had limited expertise. A lot of those monies just can't be recovered anyway. So the CBN says, or the governor says that you're going to we're going to focus on our core mandate. And what's the core mandate of the CBN? Price stability, FX stability, and advising the government and all that. Just typically the core mandates of the CBN. And so they're going to stop all this lending money and they're going to rather focus on the core mandate. It doesn't mean that this would stop in entirety. It's just that there are other institutions in which the CBN has a stake in that can do a better job of this. So you have the Bank of Industry, you have, I guess, the NIDB, you have a couple of other institutions, development finance institutions or DFIs, that are better suited to lending money or to sectors that need this kind of patient long-term capital. And CBN has a stake in some of these firms. So, all in all, I guess it's a good thing. Great speech. What we want to see is execution. So we're good at talking. I want to see execution. We've seen baby steps at the moment, but would like to see these come into reality. So the next few months would be very interesting. And also have yourself a good day. Please like, share, subscribe. If there's anything you find interesting, anything that you defend, drop it in the comment section. My apologies, this video is quite long. It was a long speech, and so inevitably, a summary would have been equally long. So I've tried to compress this. There's lots of other interesting things in the speech, but these are the things that struck me. Yeah. Have a good day, everyone, and have a good week as well. Today's Sunday, so new week. Take care.